Afternoon everybody, it's now 1 p.m. I'd like to open the Extraordinary Council meeting of Monday the 23rd of February 2026. In accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993, Cowra Council is live streaming and recording this meeting and will be uploading it to the recording to Council's website. By speaking at this meeting, you agree to being live streamed and recorded and having this recording published in the public domain. Please ensure that when you speak at council meetings you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cowra Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I have apologies from Councillor Ruth Fagan, Councillor Nikki Kiss, Councillor Karen Cave's here, Councillor Speechley. Can I have a motion to accept those apologies? Thank you, Councillor Downing. Councillor Cave, thank you. Councillor Downing. Councillor Cave. Anybody else wish to comment, write a reply? Councillor Downing. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Councillors and staff, please indicate in relation to any interest you need to declare. A, what report or item you are declaring an interest in. B, whether the interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary. And C, what is the nature of the interest? No. I don't think so, no. You'll stay in the room? We have no presentations, so we'll go straight to item 2.1, refinancing options for two council loans. Do I have a mover for this recommendation? Councillor Watt, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Cave, thank you. We've got a mover and a seconder. Before we get the mover to speak, I'll ask the Director to explain to us all, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This paper has been brought forward at the request of Council when it reviewed its portfolio of loans. An opportunity was identified for potential savings through refinancing two of the larger loans. Those loans are, with current amounts outstanding, $5.5 million for the sewage treatment plant and $760,000 for the refurbishment of the civic centre. Requests for quote on loans were made to financing institutions. We received responses back from the Commonwealth Bank, NAB and Westpac. We were also proactively approached by a loans broker to see if they could get us a better rate. They were working through the ANZ but were unable to provide us with a rate today with evidence of assurance from ANZ that that money will be available, so we haven't included them in the analysis. A couple of quick points. Both of the loans will have break fees. The existing loans will have break fees if we leave them. They have been quoted today, but they are subject to change overnight, and the break fees wouldn't actually be processed until tomorrow, so there is a small chance that they may change. It's because of that we've, in the recommendation we've made, a very minor allowance for possible increase in those break fees, but I don't think it's material to the discussion. As for the loans themselves, Commonwealth Bank submitted reasonably competitive rates. It was the most competitive rate on one of the loans, which was the Civic Centre refurbishment, and it was the second most competitive rate for the sewer treatment plant. Now, notwithstanding the fact that it quoted 6.32% behind NAB 6.28%, we are recommending that Council proceed with the Commonwealth Bank quote. And the reason for that is that NAB and Westpac in their quotes have both said that the loans wouldn't be finalised for 2 weeks, and that they would be finalised at the rate of the day they are finalised. So there's a 2-week space between now and when the loans could be entered into, which obviously represents a risk that the rate would change. So we're saying let's take the conservative approach and go for the rates that are current as of today. The only thing I'd say in closing is that the break fees are not proposed to be drawn from a lending source, and that reason is basically because we couldn't roll them in into the financing until we knew what they were, and that was today. So we couldn't get quotes on that. However, we do have sufficient money in the sewer reserve. We've got $11.8 million there at the moment, and we've got $2.8 million in the general account of unrestricted cash. So both of those amounts relevant to the particular loans will be sufficient to meet the break fees. So with that, I turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very excited to see this report before us today. I think it's a really good reflection of sound financial management, that we continue to review our ongoing loans and every opportunity for us to save money on the bottom line going forward. I think if you look at this at a glance value, as Councillor Horton has just highlighted, these are very significant break fees when we look at it here. But even with the consideration of $650,000 in break fees, we are looking to benefit around $130,000 on the sewer treatment plant, and an additional $10,000 on the Civic Centre refurbishment over the life of the loans, which I think is a really smart move for us and something we should institute into going forward. I note the director's suggestion for the Commonwealth Bank over the National Australia Bank. If I could just ask a little bit more in this, as the difference over the life of the loan is $20,000 and quite significant. Are we limited in the approval of a loan amount over the 2 weeks because we as councillors need to approve an actual amount, or is it a choice for risk management that potentially over the next 2 weeks the rate could increase so much that it is more than $20,000 different?
Thank you. Through the Chair. The Act is silent on managing such variations. What we have recommended with the break fees, as you've noticed, is that council approve up to an amount, so that includes a buffer there. It would be open to council to approve taking a loan up to a certain percentage point. There's nothing in the Act that I'm aware of that would prevent you from doing that. However, that's something that's just going to be a decision for councillors based on your appreciation of risk over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. And it's always a very difficult position, I guess, having to make a decision via committee with not a lot of notice. But I do really appreciate that response. And I think considering, there's 0.04 percentage points between them, it's probably realistic to assume there could be some change over the next little while. But happy to hear other councillors' views on that as we work through. Bit of a strange one today as we are considering while we're receiving the motion. But overall, I think I'm very excited to move this because it's, as I said, an opportunity for us to save a reasonable amount of money over the next couple of years in our loans and reduce the ongoing interest and principal we need to pay. I think it's a smart action to consider, and to consider when we enter into loans in the future the ongoing implications of those costs. Thanks.
Councillor Cave.
Hi, Mayor. I see this has been brought forward from the council. It's really, really good. It's nice to see everything going forward and how we're spending our money for the town. And I'm looking forward to all this information to come forward again and see if we can get better deals. And yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Wright?
I've got a couple of questions. First, it says that the loan won't be drawn up for a fortnight. Is it the breaking charge, it could change, or the interest rate could change from today?
Through the chair, there are two separate issues. The break fee would be calculated and quoted to us today as we have presented to you. However, it would not be, the transaction would not proceed until tomorrow, and the bank has advised that it would proceed based on market conditions tomorrow. So if there was a move in the overnight market, that could result in an increase in the break fee or indeed a lessening of the break fee. We just don't know. So there's a calculation that they use to determine the break fee that's set up in the loan documents. We have no influence over that.
Yeah, thank you. And the figures, these net figures is after we pay the break fee and continue on paying the loan down at the new interest rate.
Through the chair, that's correct. We've also, with the break fees, we've also factored in the opportunity cost of using money that's within the reserve or within the general fund, because that basically, if we were to use that to pay the break fees, and obviously we're not able to earn interest on that money. So it's all been factored into the calculations, and the tables that are attached to the paper detail that.
Yeah, it's not an easy decision, and I'm a bit of a stick in the mud. If we went to whoever's got the loans now and we offered to pay the equivalent of the break fee off our existing principal in a one-off payment, is that allowable, or we got to stick to the payment regime? What I'm looking at is we use the money that they want for break fees to, if the council's going to be prepared to pay that, if we paid that off the loan and continued on at the higher rate, we might be just as well off. Would the bank accept something like that?
Through the chair, no. The reason why is that the break fee is the fee that we pay to our existing lender for the right to remove ourselves from the financing arrangement. So it's essentially a penalty on us for leaving that loan. When we then look at taking out refinancing to cover the outstanding amount, we still have to cover the existing balance of the loan, which is reported in the papers. So unfortunately, that really wouldn't work in this circumstance.
Righto. Yeah, we can look at, we're going to save 180 odd thousand, 160,000 or something. It seems like a lot of money, but we're going to spend nearly 600,000 for the pleasure of it. And I know we've got to get our debts down and our interest costs down, but we're taking money out of substantial money out of the sewerage fund, and we've got costs that's going to be needed to be incurred for that going forward. I know it's being used on the sewer, we're paying it down earlier, and we're taking money out of the general fund, our free money, and as the director said, that leaves us less money there to use for something else that might crop up. And we had to have a special meeting now to accept the rate, but we're accepting a rate that is going to be finalised tomorrow. Have we got any right to, anyway, if it goes up 0.2%, it probably won't, but we could look at it and say, no, we don't want to do this. Can we get out of it or not?
through the chair, if I could just try to clarify the question in my mind, if you're asking about whether we can leave the break fee, well, we could always do that, but that would mean that we would retain the existing loan, because the condition of leaving the loan is obviously to pay the break fee. In terms of the financing arrangements for the rest of the loan, for the loans themselves, if we've paid the break fee, then we still do need to cover the remaining principal of the loan, which would be in the order of, just sketching a quick look here, about $6.1 million overall between the two loans. So the decision really, if we take a decision to refinance the loans, that decision effectively needs to be supported by a decision to meet the break fee. Does that help?
So therefore, if we accept the offer today, but if something goes wrong in the next couple of days or fortnight till it's drawn up and the charges change, we've already cancelled the existing loan and we've got nowhere to go. We can't go back to the existing loan.
I see your question. The CBA quote, which is the one we're recommending, is a firm rate. So that will not change between now and when we actually enter into the loan. Should council decide to go with one of the other financiers, then the rate is subject to change, and I can't tell you now with 100% certainty what the rate would be on the day that the loan is transacted.
Thank you. I realise you've done a lot of work to get to here, and on the savings, it's been said that, I don't know, I can't just put it all together at the moment, but we'd be saving $20,000 a year, and we're taking $650,000 out of our accounts that can't be used anywhere else. I'll go with the majority, I suppose, but it doesn't seem all that attractive, and they don't seem as if they value our business and how our board or council operates in making decisions, and as usual it's sort of going one way, the bank's way. So I'm still thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Downing? Councillor Horton?
Thank you, and I'm not an expert on meeting procedures, but I wonder whether, is this an opportunity for us to do something like Committee of the Whole, where we can maybe have more of an open discussion as opposed to the more structured? I'll defer to those that understand more about meeting procedures. I've got some questions and want to discuss stuff, and I wondered whether that might free us up a little bit more.
Mr. Chairman, technically Councillor Horton is absolutely correct. Really, I think the Chair would have the discretion, and does from time to time in this chamber, to be lenient in terms of councillor questions and comments. So, in the Chair's hands.
Yes. According to our code of meeting practice, people can speak for 5 minutes and once only, except the mover of the motion who gets a right of reply. But when we have things that people want to have a good talk about, we want to discuss it, and when somebody does bring up an item, it brings up another question from somewhere else, I am happy to give the leeway that, one, you'll get the chance to come back for a second question, and two, you can speak longer for 5 minutes. So if you're all happy with that, and that would be the only change in the Committee of the Whole, that there would be longer time to speak. So I'm happy to go ahead.
No, that's fine. I suspect, and there might be other people the same, the questions I have at the start might change by the time I've heard a couple of other people speak and a couple of things clarify, and then I might have another question later on. So I just wanted to have that kind of flexibility to be able to come back and ask questions. So I just wanted to draw a line in the sand. We're looking at spending 650 to ultimately save 130. Like that's the net benefit at the end. That's inclusive of that paying the breakage fee at the start and all the rest of it. So that's true. Because the first time I looked at it, I thought, hang on a second, we're going to spend 600,000 to save 100. That math doesn't math. But that's been clarified, so that's fine. So the only remaining question for me is, and it's a little bit, I think where Councillor Wright was coming from, is the impact to the remaining, like particularly the sewer fund, because that's the bigger chunk, and the level of confidence we have that there's enough remaining in that sewer fund for us to do what we still need to do.
Thank you. Are you happy to do?
Through the chair, yes. Look, just to go to what I think is the nub of that question, the sewer reserve is currently sitting at a balance of around $11.8 million. What we're proposing here is a loan discharge fee up to $604,000. Which I feel leaves quite a healthy margin in terms of the forward program of spending that we may need to draw on that fund for. I have to apologise and say I don't have a detailed view on that at the moment. For the second part of your question, we're proposing that council spend up to $50,000 in break fees for the Civic Centre. That includes a confidence margin of $737. That money would be drawn from the unrestricted cash balance of the general fund, and that fund is sitting at the moment at about $2.8 million. So I would suggest that $50,000 off that is I wouldn't say it's non-material, but it's not huge.
Okay, does anyone else like to comment? Councillor Watt, do you want to continue the comments, or do you want to write a reply? I'm happy either way.
No, I've got questions, and yeah. I think just following on from Councillor Horton's questions, I think our assessment of can we continue to pay bills, do we continue to meet the ratios that are the standards for local government about cash flow is a question here. Is it the assessment of the team that the general fund would continue to meet appropriate ratios of, yeah, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, look, I haven't done the calculation coming in here. However, I am confident that we would still meet the required ratios.
Fantastic, thank you. That's my only question at the moment.
I just, taking on Councillor Wright's comments, I just thought to myself, if we had to do something in the sewerage works and we didn't have enough money there and we borrowed, again, we would probably be borrowing at a very significantly less rate than what we've been charged on that big loan. So even if we did have to go back to get more money to do sewerage work, it'd be at a reduced rate than what we're paying on this big one. So possibly, if we had to do that, it'd probably work out all right for us. So
just, I suppose, following up on a couple of the questions, I think my advice would be that the breaking of the Civic Centre loan would be a very little consequence and easily manageable within council's finances. And these, in terms of sewer, well, I think we're all aware the big ticket item in sewer going forward in the next 10 years is West Cowra sewer, and I would suggest that that's going to be overwhelmingly grant funded and or loan funded. And so that would be the difference there. So I don't think this makes a difference, a significant difference to the decision making council will have in relation to that project over the next 12 to 18 months.
Councillor Downing.
Thank you for all that information. I think this has been a target of ours since I came into the chamber to try to get some loans down. And we can see by each monthly report that we get that those loans are going down. That used to be a lot longer list of loans than there is there now. So this is just another step on the way, and I'm happy to support it. I do think that any future loans that we get, for example, sewer, as Mayor Smith said, will definitely be a lower rate. These were over 30 years and they were quite substantial loans, so I'm happy to support us going forward. I just had a question for the Director. The break fees, have you got any indication of what they do overnight, like what's happened in the past?
No, I don't. At the risk of offering an opinion, I would be surprised if they were to change overnight. You're basically taking 12 hours out of the cycle and saying, hey, does anything shift? So unless there's some major disruption to the market, I wouldn't expect there would be a major change.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I change my advice?
Councillor Wright.
I just got a question. On the top of the second page or whatever, loan 249, principal remaining is 762,000, expires on the 4th of May 2040, but on the front here it says for a period of 7 years and 10 months we're going to finance it for, so that's nowhere near that. Have we got the wrong date? Should it be the 4th of May 2040 for the sewerage loan?
Excuse me, I'm just not sure where in the paper you're referencing, Councillor.
Well, in the recommendations,
Oh, thanks.
it's got the period of the loans, item 2, and you go to top of the next page, and they seem to be back to front, I think. We're going to pay the sewerage loan out by the 22nd of December 2033 and pay the Civic Centre out on the 4th of May 2040.
Yeah, look, the numbers are basically around the wrong way. So I apologise for that. It's a cross-referencing issue, but if we have a look at the tables.
I can't read the table, I'm sorry, and I can't.
It's okay.
I can't seem to find it on the internet.
Yes,
it is. But I can't get it on the hub.
The sewage treatment plant loan would be for 14 years and 2 months. That's the larger of the loans, and then the smaller loan is loan 249, which is 7 years and 10 months.
So those dates should be swapped.
Yeah. And so, yes, the dates should be swapped.
Okay, anybody else wish to comment? More questions?
Just to clarify, the periods in the recommendation itself are correct. It's just the backup that's, yeah.
What's correct?
The recommendation is correct, but the papers are incorrect.
That is correct.
So are we all happy that we've got the information we require? Okay, well, I'll go to Councillor Watt, write a reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to all our councillors for your deep consideration of this. I think it's really important that we do investigate these questions, and I think you can definitely see the difference we approach when we've had time to read the papers before we come and when we've come here. But it does make it's good practice that we are doing it this way, because we want to make sure we're making the call today on what the actual financial implication is. So in my first few months as councillor, I was surprised to see the council held a number of loans at 8% interest rate when in around 2022 market rates were around 2%, some of the lowest interest rates in some time. The ongoing implication of this was huge for our budget, millions of dollars, which have significant impacts on our ability to meet our needs for our community, but also plan for the future in terms of projects we've spoken about today of West Cowra sewer or water treatment plant redevelopment. There was obviously a decision of the council at the time to invest in loans for infrastructure development rather than seek grant funding, which probably was also a reflection of government at the time and the willingness to provide grants. We, of course, as council, are hamstrung by the whim of the state and federal government in that we are unable to do infrastructure development or new projects in our community without grant funding, and grant funding is only provided by the government based on what they see as a priority, which is not very fun when you're trying to upgrade a sewer or provide basic infrastructure such as roads for our community. I think it's a good reflection of our council to think about how we can reduce this and reflect that councillors at the time made those decisions with the best information available at the time, as we are today. This may, in a year, have a smaller, interest rates might be 5% in a year and we could have saved more. But as councillors, I think we need to look at what we've got in front of us and see what we can do. I do also think it's important for us as councillors to continue to raise questions and push as our community. When I first raised the option of refinancing our loans in 2022, I was told by the staff that it was not a possibility that council could refinance it, and remind you that these interest rates were around 2% at the time rather than 6%. And I think if we can see the implication of a 2% reduction in interest rates resulting in such a significant benefit to council, it's disappointing to see that could have been probably double if we had have gone ahead with an investigation back in 2022.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. She's talking about past history, and that's nothing to do with what's in front of us.
I'll accept that Councillor Watt is explaining, and Councillor Watt was the person that, the councillor that asked for this to be done, and I think she's explaining her motives at the time, and I don't have a problem with it. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's really important in this room that we've raised the significance of these break fees, and it's something really we genuinely should consider. I have faith in the advice given to us by the staff that we will continue to be able to meet our expected requirements, our expected payments going forward, and that it will not affect our cash flow to make these two payments. Importantly, I think we should recognise that this is money that we would be paying anyway. It's just that we would be paying it over a longer term. We need to consider in that, of course, that we could earn interest on this money in the time that it's saved in our bank account and weigh up the two implications. And in the assessment that the staff have put forward to us, it has considered the impact of what interest we would earn if we kept this monies in our general fund and in our sewer treatment fund. So there has been quite a lot of consideration in quite a conservative element to consider what the savings are here. We can't predict the future, but I think this gives us a really strong assessment in our forward budget to see such a significant reduction. We know, looking at our long-term financial plans, that we are looking towards deficits at the point of 2031 going forward, due to our plans to significantly invest in our water treatment plant. So we need to be cautious, as all councils are, about how we're spending our money. As was mentioned by the director, we have around $2.8 million in unrestricted funds in our general fund, meaning that this would be a small proportion of that overall unrestricted fund. Again, we have around $11 million in our sewer treatment plant, and in consideration, as I mentioned before, about the directions of governments, both state and federal governments are, for the first time, looking to provide grants for infrastructure in things like sewer. So we do have more options and more capacity to gain grant funding in that space. So based on that, I think that this is a good decision for us as council to go ahead, and I would ask my fellow councillors to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? I declare it passed. Thank you. There being no further business, the meeting closed at 1:35. Thank you all.